Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you from Haifa in northern Israel. I'm Gaurav Savant. Even as we speak, Israeli Air Force fighter jets are roaring over the skies almost relentlessly. It's almost as if there is an apprehension that the situation could take a turn from bad to worse, and the Israeli Air Force constantly protecting the skies. Just behind me there, across the Haifa Bay, is the southern part of Lebanon, and this is where not just the Israeli Air Force but also ground forces have been mounting their operations relentlessly. And over the course of the next half hour, we get you all details of the operation to degrade the Hezbollah. There is apprehension and there is anticipation. When will Israel strike back at Iran? In Iran, the conversation is that in case Israel does strike back, then Iran's retaliation will be swift, punitive and even harsher than last time. But that's not the only threat that comes from Iran. The second threat is that this war will not only be vertical, that's between Israel and Iran, but Iran's attempt is that it also spreads horizontally, that is bring in and loop in other Islamic countries in the region. So the big question, will countries like the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, will they join this battle? There are several commentators in Israel who say that's not likely to happen. Their appreciation and understanding is Iran has been spreading terror through its proxies even in some of these countries, and this, as former Prime Minister of Israel Naftali Bennett put it, is a once-in-a-50-year opportunity for Israel to take out the nuclear facilities of Iran. A task that's easier said than done. We get you more in this report.
Iran virtually declaring war on Israel with a spate of missile strikes on 1st October. And now, 5 days later, West Asia is bracing for the biggest escalation. A full-fledged war between two of the most powerful nations in the region. U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump urged Israel to target Iranian nukes.
It's the biggest risk we have. Nuclear weapons, the power of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. You know, I rebuilt the entire military, jets, everything. I built it, including nuclear, and I hated to build the nuclear, but I got to know firsthand the power of that stuff, and I'll tell you what, we have to be totally prepared. We have to be absolutely prepared. But when they asked him that question, the answer should have been, hit the nuclear first and worry about the rest later.
With reports claiming that Israel is readying a full-scale offensive on Iran, timed with 1 year of deadly Hamas attack and hostage-taking, where nearly 1,200 Israelis had died.
IDF is preparing for the biggest strike, and probably with the oil reserves, the presidential palace of the Iran could be the target. 7th October 2023 was a black day for Israel when Hamas attacked inside Israel. On the first anniversary of this attack, Israel want to do something big.
Israel may be planning retaliatory strikes with potential targets including the Iranian president's house, Supreme Leader Khamenei's compound, apart from Iranian oil facilities and headquarters of Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Iran may have lost another top general of the elite Quds force. Brigadier General Ismail Qani is missing since Israel targeted new Hezbollah chief Hassim Saifuddin. Qani was in the targeted compound.
It depends on whether the United States is going to fall in Netanyahu's trap of being dragged into a war. If it is going to attack Iran's economic infrastructure, Iran will retaliate.
Iran, which is believed to be a nuclear-capable state, may hit back with all the forces as it commands if targeted by Israel.
We're fighting against Iran, which last week fired over 200 ballistic missiles directly at Israel, and which stands behind the seven-front war against Israel. As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and some other Western leaders are now calling for an arms embargo against Israel.
Palestinians are defending their own soil and their own land, and their defense is legitimate. Helping them is legitimate as well. Therefore, all of these attacks and Al-Aqsa flood operation that October last year was carried out, that was a correct move, logical move based on international law, and Palestinians had the right to do so.
Supreme Leader Khamenei on Sunday urged all Muslims to unite against Israel and pledged to hit back at the aggressor. Bureau Report, India Today.
Israel is fighting its adversaries on multiple fronts, from taking on the Hamas in Gaza Strip, a task that's been on for practically an entire year now, to fighting the Islamic Jihad and other terrorist organizations in the West Bank, to Hisbah in Lebanon, to the Houthi rebels in Yemen, to the Shia militia both in Syria and in Iraq, and of course, as Israel puts it, that fountainhead that's funding terror all across Iran. Now, as Israel fights this war on multiple fronts, let's for a moment focus on the Hezbollah in Lebanon, a conflict that was also fought in 2006. A short while back, I spoke to the chronicler of that conflict in 2006, an ace photographer here called Lenny. Lenny chronicled the war in 2006. He's also chronicling the war in 2024. Have there been any lessons learned, especially now when there are adversaries on more fronts? Listen in.
Iran has a counter-strike plan ready. It depends on where Israel strikes, whether it's the oil facilities or the nuclear research center or the command and control structure. Accordingly, Iran will respond. Do you see this as a massive escalation across this region now?
I think this has to be done. This has to be done. We have to respond. We have to respond, and we have to show them that they cannot do whatever they want with Israel. Israel is strong enough. Israel can respond, and Israel will respond. I don't know when, I don't know where, I don't know how. That is left to our leaders to decide. But we will respond in a way that they will be very, very, very sorry for what they did. As our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, they made a very, very big mistake. And I hope that the people of Iran will feel free from this regime that is now in power over there.
But what I want to understand from you, so far you were targeting the proxies, but the fact you as in the country, so far Israel was targeting the proxies. The killing of Ismail Haniyeh in the presidential palace compound, of course, Israel hasn't officially taken responsibility. That drew Iran into this conflict. The killing of Hassan Nasrallah, Iran thought it had to respond. Now, if Israel were to respond, wouldn't it lead to a massive escalation and put this entire region in jeopardy, in harm's way?
Anytime you do something, there is a responder. See what we respond to. Nasrallah or Haniyeh. Haniyeh, I'm not saying, I don't know who did Haniyeh. I don't know. Maybe some other from the moon, somebody came and did it. I don't know who did it, but I think it's a very, very right thing to do. Wherever it's done, I think that any murderer that murders women and children and elderly people, he shouldn't be alive. He should be killed, wherever. And if someone from Mars came and did it, I'm very happy that they did it.
But, isn't there a due legal process, a law process that should be followed?
When the minute the terrorists will follow the law, we'll also follow the same law. I think Israel is following too much international law at the moment. We are following international law and the terrorists aren't.
Iran claims that when Israel targets people, let's say Hamas, 40,000 odd people have been killed in Gaza. A large number of civilians have also been killed in Lebanon.
Well, let's separate between the things. First of all, when Iran targeted Israel, they maybe aimed at something, or maybe they told their people that they're aiming at military bases, but they don't know where the military bases are. And they, of course, they're not so good at what they're doing, so they missed. Maybe fortunately for us, unfortunately for them, there was one person killed in this latest Iranian attack. It was very sorry for them. It was an Arab Palestinian in Jericho that he was from Gaza, and he was the only one person that was killed by the Iranian missiles. So, I'm not sure if they were aiming at military camps or military bases. Maybe that is what they give themselves as a cover story, but that is not true.
One of the biggest questions across the strategic community in the world is, will Israel strike? When will Israel strike? And more important, what will Israel strike? Will it take on the nuclear infrastructure in Iran? And that is something that Iran has been making for several years and decades. There are some who argue, including US President Joe Biden, that is something that Israel should not target. Will it be the oil infrastructure? Iran has warned, in case Israel targets its oil infrastructure to cripple Iran, the same is going to be Iran's strategy against Israel, and target facilities like this Haifa port, oil refinery and gas refinery just behind me. So this could have a cascading effect, and oil prices across the world will go haywire. So how is this conflict having an impact not just on Israel, not just on Iran or this region, but across the world? We bring you more in this report.
As tensions rise in West Asia, the global economy is feeling the heat. Oil prices have edged upward, signaling potential threats to supply from one of the world's top producing regions. If Israel, supported by the United States, were to target Iran's oil installations, repercussions could be severe. Any such action would likely trigger a sharp rise in oil prices as supply diminishes.
There is nowhere in the Middle East Israel cannot reach. There is nowhere we will not go to protect our people and protect our country. With every passing moment, the regime is bringing you, the noble Persian people, closer to the abyss. But you know one simple thing. Iran's tyrants don't care about your future, but you do.
The move taken by our armed forces was the least punishment for the occupying Zionist regime in the face of the crimes, the unbelievable crimes committed by that regime, the bloodthirsty regime, the wolfish regime.
The Karg Island is Iran's main oil loading terminal. It handles over 90% of the country's crude oil exports. Oil tankers could be seen vacating the waters around Karg Island, fearing attacks. Data from the European Space Agency's Sentinel satellites processed through the Earth Observation Browser showed at least 9 vessels, likely oil tankers, east and south of the island on September the 28th. A follow-up image taken on October the 3rd captured a stark contrast, with only 1 vessel in the vicinity, apparently on the move. An attack on Karg Island could cripple Iran's exports, but spark equally harsh countermeasures by Tehran. Iran could retaliate by striking American or its allies' energy operations in the Gulf. It could blockade the Strait of Hormuz, leading to major supply chain disruptions. Iran could also step up the tensions in the Red Sea with the help of its proxy, the Houthis, by targeting oil tankers and forcing traffic to reroute. US President Joe Biden has expressed hope that oil installations will not be targeted by Israel.
The vast majority of our allies around the world as a way to bring this to an end Look, the Israelis have every right to respond to the vicious attacks on them, not just from the Iranians, but from everyone from Hezbollah to Houthis to...
A similar face-off was last seen in April when Iran launched missiles and drones at Israel, the latter responding by attacking an Iranian airbase. The two countries stopped at that, and no further escalation took place then. The latest crisis, however, may not end that easily. With Gaurav Sawant in Israel and Rajesh Pawar in Iran, Bureau Report, India Today.
As Israel's offensive against Hezbollah strongholds in southern Lebanon, in and around Beirut continue, India Today's Ashraf Wani is on ground zero, and he sent us this report.
I am currently in the south suburb of Beirut, and here just a few moments back an aerial strike was carried out on this building, and not only this one but even in the right and left, if you will see the fume of smoke coming out from these infrastructures and buildings. And this road has now been stopped because on the both sides of the road there are aerial strikes currently going on, and 30 air strikes within the span of 4 hours on Sunday morning here in the south suburb of Beirut. Few months back, Netanyahu and the defense minister of Israel said that if Hezbollah will not stop, we are going to turn this city, Beirut, into the Stone Age. And it seems that that process has been started by the IDF in the Beirut suburbs, and 30 spots are currently in fire and lot of smoke coming out in the suburbs of Beirut. Currently standing lonely in one of the famous tourist destinations of South Lebanon. It is the Tyre city, and you can see behind me it has turned into a ghost town. Not a single person is visible here in the Tyre city of South Lebanon, which is considered as one of the most beautiful and safest city in entire Lebanon. In 2006, Israel carried out bombings and aerial attacks here, and after almost 18 years, once again Israel has targeted this city since Thursday evening, and first time the city of Tyre has been targeted by the IDF. During last 24 hours, 200 aerial strikes were carried out by the IDF, including this one behind me. You can see the situation of the building which has been hit by the Israeli bomb. Actually, when we go on the right side of me, those mountains you are seeing, that is the Israeli area. They are not only mortar shelling this city since last 24 hours, but also bombarding it with the aerial strikes. The people here say that probably in coming days, all these tall and big buildings still standing here may be next target of the IDF. Behind me, this whole valley is the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, and you can see the layer of smoke has formed after the continuous artillery shelling and aerial strikes from IDF. I can count at least 9 and 10 spots, or you can say 10 installations which had been targeted during the previous night. Smoke is clearly coming from those spots and has now formed a complete layer of the smoke due to the artillery shelling and the aerial strikes here in the Bekaa Valley. Bekaa Valley is considered as the stronghold of Hezbollah fighters, and if you will see on that mountainside, it is the Marjayun, where a tough resistance is faced by the IDF, as the Hezbollah fighters are not only targeting the Israeli soldiers with the missiles and the rockets, but also by the anti-tank missiles and the machine gun fire. It is getting very tough challenge for the IDF to enter this part of South Lebanon, as they are facing very tough resistance from the Hezbollah fighters. Iran is now only focusing how to make Hezbollah powerful to fight on behalf of Iran with Israel, and that indication was given clearly on Friday by the supreme leader of Iran, Sayyid Ali Khamenei. He said that we are going to support and help Hezbollah and Lebanon as much as they will need. So that means now the main battlefield is this whole area. Even you can see the artillery shelling voices and sounds here. In coming days, this end of the South Lebanon is the hot spot here in Bekaa Valley. Ashraf Fani, for India Today in Bekaa, Lebanon.
If Israel's intelligence agencies and security forces were in the line of fire for the October 7, 2023 terror attack in the southern part of the country, where hundreds of Hamas terrorists entered the country and killed over 1,200 people and abducted over 250, the same intelligence agencies and security forces are being applauded for Israel's operations against the Hezbollah in the north. From identifying and neutralizing the chief of the Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, to taking out the entire top leadership from Hussein Sururi, the drone chief, to Fuad Shukr, the military forces commander, to top commanders of the organization. Even the new leaders are not safe from Israel's intelligence agencies and air attack. Even those who are likely to be appointed as the new leaders are either out of action or have gone missing. And this has put the Hezbollah ranks in a complete disarray. We get you more in this report.
A Lebanese security source said on Saturday that the man thought likely to be taking over as Hezbollah's leader has been out of contact since Friday. That's after an Israeli airstrike reportedly targeted Hashem Safiuddin in Beirut's southern suburbs late on Thursday. The security source and two others said ongoing strikes have kept rescue workers from scouring the site of the attack. An Israeli lieutenant colonel said on Friday that the military was still assessing the Thursday night airstrikes. He said they had targeted Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters. Hezbollah has made no comment so far on Safiuddin since the attack. Israeli strikes have eliminated much of Hezbollah's senior military leadership. That includes Hassan Nasrallah, killed on September 27th. The loss of Safiuddin, his rumoured successor, would be another blow to the group and its patron, Iran. Israel has staged a nightly targeting of Beirut's southern suburbs, known as Dahia. It was once a bustling and densely populated area of Beirut, and also a Hezbollah stronghold. Large parts of the area have now been reduced to rubble. Israel's assault in the country has killed hundreds of ordinary Lebanese, according to officials. Almost a quarter of the population, around 1.2 million people, are said to have fled their homes. The Lebanese government has accused Israel of targeting civilians. Israel accuses Hezbollah and Hamas of hiding among the population. It says it targets military capabilities and takes steps to mitigate the risk of harm to civilians. In Beirut's southern suburbs on Saturday, Abu Hussein held up his dead pet birds. These, he says, are the supposed weapons he had in his now destroyed home. Israel, he says, has violated humanity, human rights and conscience. Also on Saturday, Israel expanded its conflict in Lebanon with its first strike in the northern city, Tripoli. A Lebanese security official said the attack on a Palestinian refugee camp killed a member of Hamas, his wife and 2 children. The Israeli military did not comment on the strike.
Well, that is all we have time for on this special broadcast from Haifa in northern Israel. The situation does remain extremely tense, especially in the northern part of Israel and the southern part of Lebanon. But the big question remains, when will Israel strike back at Iran? We will continue to report from Ground Zero, but that is all I have for you on this special broadcast. Many thanks for watching.